and address only the topic under consideration. We ask that you remain civil, avoid disparaging others or questioning their motives. So tonight we're having a very interesting discussion. We're kind of following up on the action that we previously took around collective bargaining, but tonight we're actually discussing the language, the inclusive language for collective bargaining rights, covering all city employees, including dispatchers, warrant staff. So, City Council, we've been actively advancing collective bargaining rights for municipal employees for a while. Through 2025, we focus primarily on public work staff unionization. We had a hearing on the charter amendment scheduled on January 12th, 2026, and a second reading is expected coming up soon. So here's the timeline. Back September 8th, Public Works Employees petitioned Council with a list signed members to request the charter amendment allowing unionization with LEUNA Chapter 572. On November 17th, Council reviewed the progress, and on December the 8th, Council unanimously approved for the first reading of the charter amendment for Public Works. Actually, we read that into the record. And on January 12th, we had a public hearing and the second reading. We adopted that move for Public Works employees. So as far as next steps go, after that second reading and adoption, there's a requirement for a 40-day public posting. And after that, the window for appeals or modifications would change, so that the charter amendment would become effective on day 50, and state notification would be effective 10 days from there. So, and hopefully I got that right. I think I did. Excuse me, I have a little bit of a cold. So tonight's work session, we're going to actually express the possibility of expanding collective bargaining rights, the language, the changes that would be necessary to make a modification to extend unionization. Non-confidential city employees, and there's language for a charter amendment that would be needed in order to make this kind of a modification. So, Mr. Summerone, would you like to introduce our legal team that is here?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Council. Good evening, residents. Joining us tonight is our legal team from Jackson Lewis firm, Mr. Steven Silvestri and Mr. Blaine Taylor. We have a long-standing relationship with the two of them. Most recently, they were our legal team negotiating the collective bargaining agreement with the police officers, and that's a 4-year contract that Council just approved last year and takes effect the current fiscal year.
Fantastic. Welcome. Hey, how long have you been? We appreciate your presence. How long have you actually worked with the city of Greenbelt? Probably over 20 years. More than 20 years. It's a long time. So let's dive right in and kind of take a look at where we are. We've done some introductions. We can have some council discussions on the materials. Are we able, we're having these technical difficulties. I'm wondering if we're able to actually project any of the documents that we're discussing on the screen so that people will be able to see them.
Yes, Mr. Murray, we can. We have all of the functionality that we have had in the room in the past. We have that tonight. The challenges, the technical difficulties is that we lost one of the switches in the studio room, so we can't stream simultaneously to YouTube, Facebook, and the cable. So, but that will be rebroadcasted at the conclusion of the meeting. The videos will be uploaded to YouTube, and it'll be streamed through cable.
Excellent.
But yes, we can share any document that from the packet on the screens through Zoom and the screens in the room.
And we do have 4 attendees online.
Thank you, Councilman Fritz.
Okay, well, the first document that's in the packet is actually a copy of the December 8th draft, the one that we approved in January, the charter amendment resolution regarding the Public Works employees. And I know we're actively working on that. That will come up on the agenda probably at which meeting?
I'm sorry, which document, Mr. Mayor?
The second reading,
The second reading of,
the resolution for the Public Works employees.
We did that on the 12th.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got a
Yeah.
cold. So what I'm trying to drive at, I'm just trying to kind of review the materials that we have in the packet so that there can be council discussion. Would anyone like to say anything about this first document, number 2026-01?
so Mr. Mayor, the documents that are that were included in the packet at the request of council is one is the charter amendment resolution draft language for a resolution that would modify the charter to allow all employees.
Right.
This is the second language that you requested. Along with that document is the exhibit of the charter amendment that is being suggested to allow all employees to unionize. Following that document is the meeting minutes of the regular meeting held on January 23rd, 2023. This document, along with the compensation study, were submitted to council at the request of Councilmember Pompey on what we have, how we have addressed the compensation for city employees, and that was a study that council requested many years ago. It was presented to council. Several options were presented to council on how to modify the pay scales for all employees except for the sworn officers. So in there you have the PowerPoint that was presented to council in the meeting minutes of the meeting where council took action to implement changes to the wage scales, and made adjustments to certain positions in the organization. There's also a draft document outlining potential changes to Chapter 13 personnel of the city code.
Right.
This will be needed. An adjustment will be needed to the city code to allow for the public works employees to unionize, and should council amend the charter to allow other employees, we will need to make amendments to the city code. Mr. Savasti, did I miss anything on the city code? No. And those are the documents that are included in the packet.
Right. So, Mr. Vester, you've drafted these materials, so I was wondering if you could kind of summarize or just briefly for the public and for council, once again, kind of share the framework that's been established for this discussion in terms of the language changes that would be necessary for the charter amendment.
Was to draft language that would expand collective bargaining rights to all city employees other than confidential employees and supervisors. So the language that we drafted encapsulates that. The only caveat to that was that we installed language that excluded the city employees in the Human Resources Department, Finance Department, Information Technology Department, and in the mayor and city council staff. By and large, all of those employees that are in those departments are confidential employees that have confidential personnel information. But the rest of the city employees, including everybody that ranges from teachers to lifeguards to maintenance employees, parks and recreation employees, would be included in the scope of rights to collectively bargain.
Hey, quickly, could you just define confidential employees and supervisors?
So there's a longstanding definition of confidential employees that the National Labor Relations Board uses. For those of you who don't know what that is, the National Labor Relations Board is the federal agency that's responsible for labor relations and the conduct of labor relations in the United States and the private sector. They don't have jurisdiction over states or municipalities, but many states and municipalities follow the NLRB case law in terms of its own definitions, their own definitions. And confidential employee in the NLRB jargon means that the person has access to personnel information that is of a confidential nature, like wage rates, like benefit information, and participates in the process of either formulating data analysis in connection with that for administrator or actually makes decisions in connection with that. So, for example, somebody who is a HR specialist, if you have somebody like that who receives confidential information from an employee that has complaints, and then acts on that, would be a confidential employee and excluded from the coverage of the statute. I hope I
Right.
made that clear.
Thank you. So, in that context, and with the proposed charter amendment, what are the implications, just in terms of council's responsibilities, the bargaining process? Just looking specifically at the Charter Section 3-22.
Well, I mean, so what you would do, it's assumed that the charter amendment passes. We would install language in the city code that it did a couple of things. One, that set up a process by which employees who sought union representation could obtain that representation.
Mr. Silvestri, could you grab the microphone? It's not, audio's not picking you up. Is that better?
Okay, let me
Yes, thank you.
start. We would install in the city code language that would effectuate the intent and the language of the charter amendment. So that would mean, for example, setting up a process in the city code by which employees who desire union representation could select a representative of their choosing, whether it be by voluntary recognition of the city or by an election, a secret ballot election, which is usually the two forces by which you get that. And then we would set up a process, although there's one already existing for that in the city code for the FOP. So we would mirror a lot of the language that the FOP has in terms of its rights and how to address them for the rest of the city employees.
So this kind of a amendment opening up collective bargaining to most employees, is it common? Other municipalities in Prince George's County?
So yes, so there are municipalities that have municipal employees that are represented either by AFSCME or by the Municipal Employees Union, MGCEO, what the acronym is, and occasionally other unions. The issue really is that the bulk of them are really either Parks and Rec or Public Works employees, and not necessarily the umbrella of every single other kind of employee that's in the city. And I say that because most cities, like this city, have a plethora of different classifications. If you look at the non-Public Works, non-Parks and Rec people, you've got a lot of different classifications with different interests. I mean, they may all have an interest in union organizing. That that is what it is. But there's a big difference between somebody who's a maintenance employee for the city and somebody who's a lifeguard. And so there's different kinds of interests there. So generally speaking, from my experience, the units that we're seeing are units of Parks and Rec and DPW.
Right.
I'm not saying there's no unit with everybody. I can't say that, but I can say most of the units are DPW or Parks and Rec.
And when you open this up with this kind of an amendment to all employees, is it kind of like one size fits all? Other examples, is there like one union covers everybody, or are there
It's possible.
5 or 6
I mean,
different
it's
ones, or how's
possible
that?
that the employees would opt to be represented by one union. It's possible that and I'm not calling out a particular group, so don't take it as me knowing anything, because I don't know what the employees want or don't want. But a group could want Union A and another group could want Union B, or a group could want no union and all the rest of the groups could want Union A. It doesn't. I mean, if we open it up that way, then we are likely to have any number of different kinds of interests, or one.
So conceivably, the FOP could represent all of our employees?
No. No, the FOP only represents sworn police officers.
Got it.
Same thing with the fire. I mean, we don't have paid firefighters, but the fire union only represents firefighters. They're professional employee unions that only represent the oathed people who are working for the city.
Got it. Council? Please.
Oh, no, you know,
Go-
you
no,
know,
go
no,
ahead.
no, you go.
Well, what I wanted to clarify a little bit is because it looks like these two documents say slightly different things, and I'm a little bit confused by the difference. So this is the simpler one. This is the actual charter language change. The designated representatives of non-managerial, non-professional employees of all other city departments. But then in the resolution, it has very different language. It talks about non-classified, which is, I think, the term that we use more in the city. Right, in the
You wanna
whereas.
scroll down.
No, I'm talking about right here.
Okay.
Can you make that any bigger?
Maybe. It's a little bit. Yeah, that's worse.
Okay.
I'm sharing it because I wanted to point out. Yeah,
Sorry, that's the zoom button right there.
yeah, maybe. I guess that makes it a little bit bigger. It just makes it. Yeah, that makes it a little bit bigger. I don't think I can. I can't get rid of this on the side. Yeah, the full screen presentation mode does it like that, which is
Page 3
worse.
of the packet, right?
Yeah. But what?
Page 4 of the packet.
Yeah. So this is maybe a little bit bigger, but so the difference is I can just read it aloud. So in the charter amendment, it says, and designated representatives of non-managerial, non-professional employees of all city departments. But the charter amendment resolution in the whereas says non-classified, non-managerial, and non-professional employees, excluding administrative and clerical employees in the following departments: human resources, finance, information technology, the office of the mayor and city council, which honestly doesn't actually exist because we don't have any staff, so that probably shouldn't be there.
Yeah, we sure don't have an office.
The office of the city manager, the office of the city clerk, which I think also would be kind of, I mean, really the city clerk is in the city manager's office, and the police department, consistent with those procedures. So I guess what I'm not understanding is the difference is, first of all, the use of non-classified, non-managerial, and non-professional instead of the confidential employees that you just explained, but also the delineation of these departments here when the charter amendment is all other city departments.
So those are my terms, not necessarily matching what your structure is.
What's in the charter?
Okay, yeah, so if you're calling the employees, unclassified employees, then we should use those terms. We should exclude the confidential employees, and if that's not in the charter, in the resolution, it should be in the resolution. So that's probably my fault that it's not in there, I'll take responsibility for that. But again, words like the office of the mayor and city council.
Right, no, those are generic, yeah.
Words in terms of structure. I'm
Mhm.
intending, I think you understand what I'm intending to do in terms of exclusions. We can work on that language if we need to.
But I guess in terms of where confidential employees sit, I mean, I could see human resources. I mean, and there's some managerial employees that human resources might have access to some of that privileged confidential information. Some in finance, although I guess it seems like there maybe should be a distinction between, I don't know, I guess it doesn't seem like all of the finance employees are necessarily confidential employees because some of them are not necessarily dealing with that kind of confidential information. I guess it just seems like there's a little bit of a mismatch between the language in the resolution and what's in the charter. This is much more open, although I don't know that we use non-professional employee as a term generally.
So let me see if I can address that. So let's just say Union A wants to represent employees in the Department of Human Resources, right? It's up to describe to the union who we think the confidential employees are that are excluded.
Okay.
Right. It becomes way too complicated to name them by classification or name them by name. Same thing holds true for finance. I mean, there are people in finance that don't really have access to analysis of financial information, but there are people who do. People in finance that don't have access to financial information, okay, fine, they're not really covered in that category, but trying to draw distinctions now is, I think, way too early for that. No one is intending look at. So if the employees say we want to organize, we would look at the classifications and go, okay, our position as a city is you're in, you're in, you're in, you're excluded. And the union would say, okay, we agree with you, or we don't agree with you, and then there would be a fact finder or somebody that would make either a determination or a recommendation to us as to whether we should exclude them or include them. That's the normal process that exists now in the private sector in many municipalities. In the public sector, it's not rocket science. We can figure that out.
Got it, got it. And we'll pause for some public comment in a few minutes, but I just want to get the context a little bit further along. I guess bottom line is we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We really are trying to look at best practices and figure out what's going to be best for our employees and to certainly get there, and work together to come up with something that fits Greenbelt. Yeah, council member.
Yeah, something that came up, I believe, if I'm remembering the date, at the December 8th meeting. We looked at this alongside the more narrowly crafted public works, and I made it clear at the time that I wanted to move forward with the more inclusive charter amendment, and it's still my belief that we can work out the differences in the code. But something that the Mayor Pro Tem brought up and something that Councilmember Pope also raised was 911 call takers, dispatchers, yes, the emergency communications workers. We're concerned that the language as written excludes them because it says police department and all other departments.
So we could, again.
And I'm sorry, Mr. Silvestri, we're getting comments online that it's hard to hear you. So you might have to really get close to the mic. I'm sorry.
And it's good. Yeah, we just wanted to make sure. That's why we did take pause at the first read, because we wanted to make sure that the language was all inclusive. Also, and as we've now discussed, there's more to elaborate in the code beyond what's this more universal charter language.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm glad you made that distinction. So, in looking at the charter change first, typically, how does this process move along in communicating with employees and defining a bargaining unit?
So we could do one or two things. We could have the charter amendment, get that passed, and create the code, language changes, introduce that as we introduce normal code changes. Assuming it goes through, we could stage town hall meetings with the employees. We could educate them through the city manager's office, city administrator's office. We could educate them through the HR system. There's a lot of ways we can get to the employees in terms of what rights they have. And we could do it in a neutral way so that they understand and they have an opportunity to ask questions, answer questions, get questions answered. That's not going to be a problem. We can get that done.
Right.
So we would do that, and then it's up to them. At that point, it's really up to the employees to say, hey, we're going to affiliate with Union A or Union B, or maybe we just have a Greenbelt Employees Union. We're not trying to, how do I put this, influence them one way or the other.
Do other municipalities do it that way?
Yes. Yes. Again, they have education sessions,
Okay.
It's about education.
And the process would be the same with the charter amendment, first reading, second reading, public hearing, and 40 days, 50 days. And at that point, you would begin to discuss the code modifications.
Yes. Yeah, we would probably have code modifications drafted at that time, so we wouldn't have any delay. Because again, we have a model. We have the model, which is the FOP provisions of the code. So rather than have a whole, I mean, I guess my first inclination would be rather than have a whole new section, we just amend the FOP provisions of the code to allow all employees, and we work through it that way.
Yeah, I see.
And again, I haven't looked at it specifically to say that, but I think that would be, I'm always about like trying to take the simplest way out, and that would be, I think, simple.
Okay. Let's see, other questions or comments from council before we open the floor up to some comment? And Mr. City Manager, did you have any thoughts?
I don't have anything to add. I think the legal team's covered it well. Just to put some of the changes or put the draft in perspective, this draft was, we haven't had a meeting with council to get direction about what you wanted included in the draft. So this was the team's effort to anticipate what council might want to discuss and consider.
And that's a big reason for the work session tonight. Was
Right,
council
correct.
Seeing this. And, so, quick question. In the packet, we've got the compensation study information and the minutes as well. And Councilmember Pompey, did you specifically ask for that information in the packet?
I'm sorry, what?
The compensation study and the minutes, yeah. So what was the context, just in terms of?
Just for awareness, I'm sorry. Just for awareness that the study had happened, because most of us on council were not on council during that time. So just the awareness that the study had happened, that there had been some pretty significant, changes to salaries as a result of that. I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware that it occurred and what the results of that were.
Yeah, it sure did occur, and Ms. Pope can share the fact that we council had been asking to get that in moving along for quite some time.
Correct, yeah, it was a long time coming, and it was very eye-opening once the compensation study actually came back to us. And I think everything has been phased in, or we're still in this year's budget. I think there's some more phasing in, and of course with the FOP contract, there's going to be another significant increase in their salaries, I believe. So I just always, I don't want people to think that our employees don't get increases, we're not paying attention to them, I mean, we are. We're paying fair wages. We did the study. That was one of the reasons, we had to up our game a little bit. We were aware of that, and we did that. And so I think a little bit of trust in us that we are seeing, and we're always trying to do the right thing. And thank you for being here tonight. And now you have served the city for 20 years, many more years than I have been here. But and we went well. I'm getting there, but always very successful negotiations with the FOP, and so I appreciate you being here, and thank you for always your good advice. And I also want to make sure that these town hall meetings, when they're happening, I don't think the intent is to discourage people to unionize. I saw some of the emails coming in, and I don't think that's the intent. Nobody wants to do that. That is not our intent at all. I think everybody has the right to organize, and you should have. And so, and we're working towards that. And of course, we want to make the best we can out of it. But we also, of course, we also have to look out for the city, right? Because this kind of situation is not cheap. It comes with a price, and we also have budgetary constraints. But we're getting there. So and I think this is a good meeting. So I hope you have some questions that we were able to answer tonight and move forward.
Yeah, and I just want to say that compensation study, this is something, it's a best practice to do those on a regular basis. And for whatever the reason, even though council had been asking to implement it, it's no small thing. There are firms that kind of specialize in doing them, and a compensation study actually kind of looks at the pay scales, the grades and whatnot, and you correct me if I'm not articulating this well, and compares them to in this case, other municipalities of a similar size or character. And the purpose is just to make sure that we are keeping up. And when those don't happen on a regular basis, it's kind of painful because we have to make these adjustments. So we're still making these adjustments from the study. Can you comment on that, Mr. Summer?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the study's fully implemented. That council decided to do that in 1 year, so all the wages were brought up. Now this work happened before I arrived. I arrived in September of 2023. That's the year that we had a budget for all of these increases in the budget, and I think you've seen the challenges that I faced for 2 years of having to make cuts to the budget to make sure that we are able to pay all of our employees a fair wage. As a reminder, just in the last 2 years, we've maintained a 2% cost of living and up to 3% merit increases available for all employees, and that comes at an expense. And last year we had to make some difficult decisions. We had to right-size some departments in order to make room in the budget to pay for all the cost of living adjustments and the merit increases. And that challenge continues. I think last week's paper properly quoted me that there's an over $3 million deficit in the budget that we need to figure out for the fiscal year 2027. But all the wage adjustments have been made. The compensation study is fully implemented.
Right, and it's our commitment doing that on a regular basis to equity and making sure that our employees are taken care of as best we can, and that's why the practice has been to extend whatever comes out of the negotiations with the FOP for the police. We extend them to all employees, so we're locked in actually to that 5% each year for several years. Although we're locked into that more or less. If we continue the practice, which I think we will, of making sure that all of our employees get the same thing that comes out of the collective bargaining negotiations when it comes to wages and cost of living. Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'll add some additional context to that, Mayor. When the comp study was done, it excluded a police department. So with the implementation of the comp study, the sworn officers did not get any adjustments because there was an existing CBA in place. This last year, with the assistance of Mr. Silvestri and Mr. Taylor, when we were negotiating the new CBA, we did the comp study and the officers were below market. So we had an adjustment to scales spread over several years so that we could bring the police officers up to market because they had been excluded out of this study. So, but just want to make that distinction that we brought everyone up to market wages. So we're doing that now, but we've had to go through two processes. One was the implementation of the wage study, and the second is the new CBA agreement that we have with the FOP.
Point out the practice, the best practice, and Mr. Silvestri, would you say that is the best practice?
It is, and I would say that I'm shocked in Maryland that the municipal league really isn't coordinating this amongst the municipalities, and each municipality has to go about doing it on its own. That's something that I certainly have been trying to advocate for, because really there's more and more municipalities now that have collective bargaining, and it should be centralized. Number one, and number two, anybody who is in the labor area now knows that trying to match market is a very elusive thing. It happens, it changes every year, and you can look at teachers, you can look at police officers, you can look at maintenance folks, you can look at lifeguards even, and the market for folks changes, and the rates change, and people make decisions about that. Surprise that we have to do that to make sure that we retain good people and treat them fairly.
Yeah, thank you so much. We'll bring that up to the Municipal League. I believe Councilmember Pompey, then Councilmember Fritz.
What's the best practice? I have two questions. First is, what's the best practice for how frequently we should be doing comp studies?
I mean, a lot of it depends on how much money you have to spend for comp studies, because they're not cheap. And I would say probably at least every 3 years, probably maximum 5 years. So you've got a 3-year tax cycle that allows you to have some potential leeway as you change the tax cycles. So you probably should be able to do something like that every 3 years if you can get a reputable firm at a reasonable cost to do it. That's the other problem. Because comp studies, sometimes the comp studies are dated by the time they're out. So really, you want to engage a comp study person to do a comp study with present data, not with data that's going to be 2 years old by the time they publish the comp study, because that's not going to do you any good. You're going to have old data. So it's really a question of how good they are, how quick they are, how efficient they are in terms of getting the comp study to you. And again, the more classifications you have, the more complicated the comp study is. You have like one classification, like police officers, is a little bit easier than 25 classifications, like what you have.
Please go ahead. Well, I was going to say, so, and council, when we did get the results of this comp study, the last one, we made that decision to implement it all at once. But, having that information is essential, as you're negotiating, and also it's essential when you're looking at your budget, you have to figure out how you're going to pay for it. So, sometimes implementing something like this has a direct impact on discussions around taxes, tax increases and whatnot. Yeah, please, I'm sorry to.
No, that's okay. I mean, I was just asking, in the context of if our Public Works employees do end up voting for a union, would it be time again for us to do another comp study? And it seems like maybe it depends.
I think it depends. I haven't seen or spent any time
Yeah.
looking at your comp study, because obviously it excluded the FOP, so I wasn't
Right.
really interested in it when we did the bargaining. But I have to take a look at that. And, there are some classifications in the non-FOP units that probably have very elastic markets. They move relatively quickly, and then there are other like if you took the maintenance folks are in demand now. Skilled trades are in demand, and that market is moving really quickly. I'm negotiating a labor contract in New York right now with the operating engineers, and their hourly pay rate is $141 an hour in New York. And that market moves really quickly because there's such a high demand for skilled operating engineers in New York, and so they can demand that. And so same thing holds true in a smaller scale for maintenance people. If you look at, and again, I'm not trying to, how do I put this, negative classification, but if you look at other classifications that aren't so elastic, the market for them may not change very much year to year, except for COLAs.
Okay. And then my final question was just, there's amended code in here. We have the amended code, and is that something that you worked on amending that, or?
Yes.
Okay.
And so I would have to take another look at that, depending upon what guidance you give us, what your decision is in connection with this unit. And I would actually work with Mr. Salvador and Mr. Martinez on that, to make
Okay.
sure that we've got everything we need in there.
Okay, there's a lot of changes here, and I don't know that we're gonna have time to go through all of them tonight. That's why I was asking, or if that's the will or intent of council to do that tonight. So I just wanted to inquire about that. Thanks. Thank you.
There's a lot there. Councilmember Fritz.
Yes, I appreciate your point about MML, and I want to maybe take a step back for everyone's kind of understanding, because I think even people at this dais said that they were not aware before the petition was filed that workers in the city of Greenbelt can unionize. So generally speaking, if you're in the private sector, you're covered under the National Labor Relations Act, unless you're an agricultural worker or a domestic worker, or one of the exceptions in that. Some states like California and New York have moved forward to allow agricultural workers to unionize under private sector law. But in the public sector, there's federal public sector law, which a lot of our residents are suffering under right now because the president is seeking unilateral authority to completely ignore federal workers law. So then that leaves this kind of last bucket of Maryland public workers, right? So every state has its own system, and I think, to your point, MML should be offering resources to help municipalities get through this process. But many states, New Jersey, where I'm from, New York, have a centralized statewide kind of public employees relations board. But here in Maryland, for everyone's knowledge, it really is a case by case basis. Librarians have to seek, oftentimes there's individual systems like our librarians who are represented by UFCW 1994 McGeo, our park and planning employees here. They had to receive authorization under state law, and then municipalities make their own decision. And this has been an issue since Martin Luther King. He fought to get the bargaining rights. His final campaign was the Memphis sanitation strike, and he died on the picket line. And those workers received their bargaining rights after a 2-month strike, about 2 weeks after his assassination. Right here in Maryland, there was a campaign in Garrett County, the longest public sector strike in Maryland history. Garrett County workers, Garrett County, about 28,000 people, around the same size as our city. They had a 6-month strike for workers to have the right to bargain. So it has been uneven over time. There have been fits and spurts. So I appreciate anyone who's brave enough to kind of do this work when there isn't a legal framework in place. And I think we could do a lot to clarify all this and to solve a lot of these problems of, market basket comparison, who's in, who's out. If the state would come in and set a single standard and have a central arbitrator to decide how these units should be structured, that's fair across the entire state rather than kind of doing it a la carte. But I think until then, leaning on municipal and county associations to kind of fill the gap is important.
Thank you. Let's see, at this time, and I think that there are quite a few modifications. I'm not sure how we'll work through all of them, but I want to open up the floor to public comment. We've got somebody online, and Mr. Learman, you've had your hand up, and Mr. Hartman. I think Mr. Learman had his hand up first. Would you like to speak?
Sure, yeah. Trent, Leon Learman, 4B Laurel Hill Road. Yeah, I just wanted to touch on a couple different things you guys were talking about. First of all, Mayor, you were mentioning, about how to decide on the different units. And I would say that the best way to go about that is what the National Relations Act does is community of interests. So when the workers decide that they're in a community of interest, they can decide to have a bargaining decide are a part of their community of interest. Clearly, the Public Works Department is a community of interest, right? They're all in one department, right? And to touch on that, connected with some of the major issues in the code changes that I think Mr. Silvestri maybe put in this packet, it doesn't allow for those community of interests. So one of the code, for example, in the code changes that he just put in here, it just says that all non-police must be in one single unit, which makes no sense, right? Public Works could be one unit, Parks could be another unit, right? So there are some big changes, not with the charter that you guys are looking at, but on in these code changes, some major issues that need to be resolved in those code changes. I would say, also just in terms of when this charter passes, that there's no need to have with workers. I mean, I think an announcement you have the right to form a union now is all that's necessary. I would ask that if there are meetings with workers in the departments, that a representative of the union would be allowed to be there. And just to share on one other issue that came up, I really am grateful for the work y'all have done to improve the pay and the benefits of the workers, and I know that's real. And just share that that's certainly not the exclusive reason that workers want to organize. You know, there's workload issues, there's treatment issues, there's non-retaliation concerns. So I think there's a lot of outside of the compensation, because you guys have done a great job on really improving that. So I appreciate all of that. And then I'll just say, you know, Ms. Pope, you know, Councilmember Pope, you spoke about how you really wanted the support, you know, the workers to have a union, and I see that, you know, I see you all doing that. I do want to say though that, with all due respect, Mr. Silvestri, on your website it says, you know, you're an expert in union avoidance, right? That doesn't make the workers feel real good, you know, when they say, I'm going to go to the city labor attorney's website. What does it say? Union avoidance, an expert in union avoidance, right? So just something to think about, you know. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's see, Mr. Hartman.
Hartman, 2 Court Gardway. A technical question. Why are the confidential employees excluded from opportunity to unionize? I'm not sure why they are.
So traditional.
Go ahead,
To answer
please.
the question, the NLRB traditionally excludes confidential employees from bargaining units.
Why?
Because they, back to the 50s, they have concluded that confidential employees are more aligned with management than they are with the employees, because they have access to confidential information that is of a personnel nature, and so they become conflicted in their duties between what their duties are to the city and what their relationship is to a collective bargaining representative. It's about the way I can describe it. I can refer you to the rationale by the NLRB in a case, and I can get that and have that to the city manager, who can get it to you, so you can read it and better understand it. I'm sure I'm not describing it as completely as the NLRB would describe it.
Is that a requirement, or is it a guideline, or is it law, or?
So in every bargaining unit in the private sector that I've been involved in for 40 years, across all sorts of industries, is what I do, despite what the website says, 100% of my labor work is collective bargaining. I'm at bargaining table probably 3 days a week with various unions across the country. I don't do union avoidance. So every unit that I've had in the private sector excludes confidential employees. I know of no bargaining unit that has confidential employees in it. None. And again, that exclusion is pretty narrow, sir. It's not intended to be an over-inclusive situation. You really have to have either decision-making authority or provable access to personnel information that would put you in a conflict position.
Okay.
If all you're doing is processing payroll, I don't think that makes you a confidential employee. But if you're making determinations of benefits and payroll and making payroll determinations, I think that does. So there's a distinction there.
Okay.
Is this open to part-time and full-time employees?
You know, there are bargaining units with part-time employees and bargaining units with full-time employees and bargaining units with both. The distinction between part-time employees and full-time employees, of course, is part-time employees are not benefited. They don't have benefits. They don't have health and welfare benefits because they're part-time employees. And that's true of just about every part-time employee in the private sector. So there are some distinctions that could.
Mr. Hartman, you're just over time. Councilman Fritz?
Well, I just wanted to make one last thing, if I could.
Well,
But some of it was Mr. Silvestri's response.
Oh, if it's council's will.
Yeah. Yeah. Finish your comment.
Some of it was Mr. Silvestri's response.
Just one comment that, I think this council and Mr. Summerall are very supportive of the employees of because if not, who knows what's gonna happen in 10, 12 years? Could be a council that doesn't like compensation. So, okay, thank you.
Okay, Councilman Fritz, yeah, Councilmember?
Yeah. To the point about private sector management, exclusion. I mean, that is something that we have to decide, right? That is something for the debate. As I said, we're setting the law. There is no standard in Maryland for these employees. If you look at a large system, the largest school system in Montgomery County is MCPS. They have 3 unions. They have SEIU Local 500 that does almost everyone that isn't a manager or a teacher. They have MCEA, which does the teachers, and they have the administrators and principals unions. So there are unions of administrators and principals. You can definitely argue that in an organization that large, that principals do represent a separate class of people, and that maybe in a much flatter organization in Greenbelt there isn't room, but there are management unions as well. So there are associations, and that is something that we could look into. But his point is taken that if we're modeling it after, the private sector, there is not really much of a space for private sector unions, and definitely the intention of the National Labor Relations Act and the subsequent legislation was to keep managers out of the unit. There's some pretty fun exclusions in there, as I mentioned before. Agricultural workers and domestic workers were excluded from the National Labor Relations Act, but there's also what's called the security guard loophole. When I was a union organizer, I found that one out. The idea was that you don't want security guards in the same union as everyone else, because if everyone goes on strike, including the security guards, suddenly you have a bunch of facilities that are accessible. And the confidential aid logic is similar, that you don't want people with information internal to the company to have knowledge about the company when workers go on strike, is the rationale. And there was, that was the rationale given.
Okay, I'd like to pivot online. I see Dr. Lois Rosado is online, and she appears to have her hand up. Dr. Rosado, are you there? Yeah, I don't. We're having these technical difficulties. Dr. Rosado, are you there?
Oh, she's coming through. I can see her.
Yeah, she's coming through on the captions, but
don't have
she's not
audio.
coming through on the audio.
Okay, I don't
In
have
the
glasses
on the
on.
audio in the room.
Don't have my glasses on. Can somebody read that
I
caption?
think if one of
perhaps?
us if you turn your computer on, you might be able to hear her.
Yeah, it's
But
going
But
to
if I
be
turn
an
my
echo.
computer
It's
on,
going to
there'd
be
be
an echo.
feedback.
Well,
Let's see. We can see the caption that you're writing. If you could concisely write. Oh, actually, I can hear a little bit, but be careful. That'll
If you mute-
feedback.
if you mute.
Go ahead now.
Hello?
We can hear
All
you.
right. I'm going to request that any comparisons to unions be public unions, not the private sector, 1. 2, I think that that's the experiences that the city should be looking at. Public sector unions, not private sector unions. 2, I'm very concerned about part-time staff that work in Greenbelt. I used to be one, and we were invisible, and it took a lot of fight, and I'm glad that compensation study was done so that the workers could begin to slowly increase their salaries, most of whom were women. So I think it's very, very important to ensure that the part-time staff is covered in some way. I know we never got health benefits, got it, understood. But there has to be some kind of protections for the part-time staff in the city of Greenbelt. Because most times, and there needs to stop.
Well, thank you. I can think of one example in the public sector where part-time employees have tried to unionize. It's been difficult. Is adjunct faculty members at universities, and it's a mixed bag. But your points are well taken, Dr. Rosado. Thank you so much. I see Mr. Orleans. Please. don't do that. Mr. Orleans, please go ahead.
For all units of Greenbelt employees who should choose to organize, it may cost the city more. I've heard allusions to the fact that we have a constrained budget this year, and presumably also in future years. There may be some budget impact if employees are bargaining collectively, because they're looking to get raises in their compensations and better benefits. And there's less of a economic component to working conditions. That's just treating, as was said by someone, treating the employees fairly, which Greenbelt has a history of not always doing. Let me suggest that I agree with the comment that if there are to be meetings with the city's labor representation, whomever it is, whether it's Jackson Lewis or not, those meetings certainly should be open to representatives of the employees choosing, who are not themselves employees. But I don't see a reason for those meetings to occur in any event. Amending the code, changing the code is entirely a separate issue from recognizing the inherent right of workers to organize if they choose to do so. And council and management has complicated this by kind of confusing, by melding the two together. Yes, the code has to be changed, but that's secondary to changing the charter, recognizing the right of employees to organize. I see potential confusion in the future. It's not for me to tell employees of any bargaining unit or any department who they should choose as their representative.
You're at 3 minutes, so.
The organization apparently chosen by Public Works employees has an interesting history, and I'm not going to question it. If that's who they choose, that's who they choose. It would be better for the interest of the city, however.
You need to wrap
Thank you,
up, Mr.
thank you,
Orleans.
thank you,
I'm
thank
wrapping
you.
up. To move forward in a fashion that would allow all employees ultimately maybe to choose the same representative for purposes.
Thank you, thank you. Yes, please.
May have been one of the first, Louise Weisman, and I live at 416 Ridge Road in the Lakeside Apartments. It's one of the few times I may agree with part of what Bill said. The concern is that in combining the interests, typically I've never worked for a union or been in a union where the legal counsel worked for both sides. Because at some point there's going to be a conflict in terms of who, and there'll be an issue of power in terms of who's asking for what. Another thing that I want us, that I hope you'll be careful about is talking too much about which unions, one union, FOP, et cetera, without having the workers at the table. They need to make the decision of what union they want to have represent them. And from what I'm hearing, I know the intent is wonderful. And based on our own, the culture of our city, we want to make everything right by having everybody in the same room. But you labor in collective bargaining, it doesn't always work that way. So I am hoping that you also allow for whichever unions are selected by the workers to represent them, that the unions have the opportunity of bringing their own counsel in to advise on collective bargaining. And I have two questions. One is that I understand there were a couple of provisions that I understand, and I would need, if somebody can correct me, what my concern is. I understand that there is a provision that says in card check that it's only viable for 1 month after the card check period ends. That's so atypical. Most unions don't even allow there to be a date specific or the period specific for card check, because there are too many variables that happen during collective bargaining or in strikes, etc. You can't, and this is difficult to have both sets of interest in the together. The second thing is, I understand there's language that says that after negotiations, the council may approve of the contract or may say no. That word of may should be replaced with will. If there is good faith bargaining of a contract, the council needs to go with will as opposed to suddenly, slipping a decision from behind. So those are my comments.
Thank you, thank you. Mr. Silvestri, what do you think of that idea of allowing a union to have its own legal representation?
Well, they do. There's no, we don't choose, we don't get to choose who the union selects as their representative. Just like they don't choose who the city gets to be their representative.
Absolutely, but I just want that clarified because there's confusion and I've heard past conversations.
You really need to speak into a microphone.
And then one other thing to address the lady's comment here. There is no 30-day card check, okay? So I'm looking at the statute itself. I mean, the code itself.
It's
The 30-day provision is that within 30 days of the filing, 50% or more of the employees are designated. Doesn't mean the cards have to be dated.
Thank you for
Okay.
clarifying.
All right, and then the other thing is that the requirements here are mirroring the National Labor Relations Act. You need 30% in order to get an election, and the election is 30 days after filing the petition, which is a shorter period of time than the NLRB allows now, because they're up at 40, 45 days.
Is that for the first collective
Louis,
Sorry. So the question is that for the first time?
Yeah.
And the answer is that, well, once they're elected, once the union is elected or recognized, then they're recognized until they're not recognized anymore. And the only reason that they cannot be recognized anymore is that the employees don't want them in, which doesn't really happen very often. I hope
Yeah,
that answers question.
that is very, very helpful. So circling back on this this important concept or the important reality in terms of the bargaining units and the how many different unions you might have in a municipality. What have you seen? I think I may have already asked this, but how many typically, not typically, but how in actual practice, in looking at the municipalities in Prince George's County or in Maryland, what's the largest number of different
So I just
unions you
checked
might have?
Laurel, and there's one union, and the bargaining unit bargaining unit is full-time employees. It's full-time employees that are hourly and completed a probationary period of 1,040 hours. And the level below crew supervisor in the operations and maintenance division, recycling and refuse division, public works, and parks. So they have DPW and parks only in Rockville. I'm looking at the contract right here, it's online. All these contracts are online.
So-
So the contracts I just saw, Frederick, Laurel, Rockville, are all full-time employees, they're not part-time employees. Doesn't mean you can't be part-time employees, it just means that the contracts out there that I could find right now in 5 minutes looking up the websites are just full-time employees. And then it looks to me like they're limited in terms of parks and recreation and DPW. That's what I'm seeing in the units. But we can provide a spreadsheet of the municipalities, what the scope of the units are, if the council wants that.
That'd be great. And just in terms of the historical context, first you had FOP and firefighters kind of coming together and bargaining, and then as time went on, historical context, more and more public works employees. And, in our sister municipalities, they kind of expanded at College Park or Laurel.
I don't know who said it, somebody at the podium said this, but, I think that the trend I'm seeing now across the country is that there's more and more of a trend to have union recognition and union organizing across the country, both in the public sectors as well as the private sectors. And notwithstanding what's happening at the federal government level, we're seeing it in the state and county level, and not just in public safety. So, I just think it's a growing, I'll call it a movement, it's just a growing trend.
Right, right. And as far as tonight goes, we've got these code modifications that you suggested, but really what we're focusing in on is the charter right now. Councilmember Fritz.
Yeah, I would say that it is worth looking at counties as well. They are, other subdivisions in the public sector, and they do have a wider range of job classifications. I'll say that it's probably an example of Greenbelt's exceptionalism that we have such a wide diversity of government employees doing so many different tasks that we are, as I've talked with Josue many times about this, we offer a very high level of service across many different job classifications. And I represented workers when I was a union staffer and field representative of over 500 job classifications. There were part-time lifeguards, there were full-time 911 call takers, there were crossing guards who were part-time but put their life on the line for our young people. So just because someone's part-time doesn't mean there aren't risks involved in their job. And I'm part-time here at the city. I still get I've been offered a pretty nice benefit package, but I definitely have no complaints. Glad I can buy into the health insurance program and the retirement program, even though I don't get I don't know where you would put my value in the comp study, but I'm not in the comp study. Well, maybe next time we need to add ourselves into the comp study, but just to the point that there are a lot of job classifications that we're going to have to look at, but there are examples of crossing guards, of lifeguards, of almost any kind of part-time employee you can think of somewhere in Maryland doing that work. And in Montgomery County, the liquor stores are publicly owned, and there's a centralized public warehouse, and the trucks are driven by local 1994 drivers. So, there's a lot of different texts. And, there are people with high school and GEDs all the way to PhDs represented in the public sector. The public sector isn't exactly the same as the private sector. And that's one of the benefits of us getting to write our own code today.
Hey, as we sort of come to the end of the work session, I did want to, Mr. Samaran and Mr. Silvestri, just in terms of the size, the number of employees we have, Where does Greenbelt stand with its in comparison to its sister municipalities in terms of the number of employees?
I tell you where we are. We're at 250 for the organization, and we have 221 non-class employees. Those are the class instructors, lifeguards, seasonal workers. So add those together, we're at over 400.
Yeah.
400.
But so how does that
employees.
compare with Bowie or Laurel
I can. Well, Laurel is
or
almost three
Rockville?
times our size. I will have to. I will have to do a per capita calculation of those.
I don't know. I can't answer that question.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't answer the question of total complement employees. I mean, that's something we could probably find on the website.
Okay, I'm just asking. Mayor Pro Tem, did you?
Yeah. Another question just to follow up on, because I think just in terms of getting to, the point about doing the things about the bargaining units, that's part of the code that might be something for a further conversation. But in terms of a charter amendment to put forward that supplements the Public Works one that we already passed, and looking at the language we have here, I think clearly we have some concerns about excluding those in the police department that are the dispatchers, who would be excluded from all other city departments. The other question I wanted to ask was that this charter language, we've talked about non-managerial, that makes sense. The confidential, which is defined in the code but not in the charter. But the other language here is non-professional employees of other departments. And I'm just curious, because that's also defined in the code, but that seems to be a broader category than the confidential employees that you were talking about, because the professional employee is someone who, at least as in this, performs predominantly intellectual and varied work requiring specialist knowledge, typically gained through advanced education, and who consistently exercises discretion and independent judgment. That seems like a much broader exclusion, just excluding confidential employees.
So that's my exclusion, and really that was drafted before I took a look at everybody that would be. So one of the things I did to prepare for this meeting is I asked Mr. Salmarone and Mr. Martinez to send me a list of classifications that are other than DPW and FOP. That's where I looked at and saw all of the teachers and the dance class instructors. So we're gonna have to take another look at that definition and maybe even exclude it, because if you're intending to include those people in collective bargaining rights, then we're gonna have to make sure that we don't exclude them by
Right.
that term, okay?
Exactly my point.
If you say to me, these people should be in, then we're gonna have to amend or edit the charter provision to make sure that there's no, how do I put it, vagueness or ambiguity with respect to that, okay? And again, we'll take, I will take whatever guidance and direction the city council gives us with respect to what you want to see in, who you want to see in.
And at
When I
least,
say in, I mean having collective bargaining rights.
and I think for me, it seems that the distinction between managers and non-managers and confidential employees are much more clear and make more sense. But I don't know if that's something, it's probably too late to get it on next week's agenda in terms of like actually voting on that. It depends on how much agreement we have here, since we can't take formal action tonight. But I think so I guess we just have to decide if we need to, do we need to have a council vote, for example, at a meeting coming up about where those lines are drawn?
Well, I think we need to just from the work session tonight, just in terms of language, the distinction between some of the language that's in the code and the charter, particularly the terminology that you've used about confidential employee. I mean, there's clearly it's not a disconnect, but it's just different how you're kind of defining that in terms of the words that we're using.
If I could make a suggestion, let us take a couple of days or a few days to get a spreadsheet together of the municipalities in Maryland that have municipal employees have bargaining rights, what they are, what the scope of what scope of employees are included in that. And certainly we can include some counties, because some of the counties are organized as well, to address Councilmember Fritz's question. We could do that so that you have an idea of what your I'll call it the market, what everybody else is doing, okay?
I think that's, it's important to actually have that information. I don't think gathering that will slow our process. And of course, with public works employees, that's in motion, and we're in that 40-day period.
Yeah, there's nothing that's gonna delay that.
Oh.
I mean, we'll be, we've already got all that drafted.
Right, right. Mr. Summerall, you looked as though you were about to say something.
I'm sorry, I was doing math in my head.
Councilmember Pompey.
Thank you. I just, thanks to the Mayor Pro Tem for bringing up the managerial, the non-professional versus professional employees, because there are professional employee unions. I was a member as a professional. I've been in unions both as a non-professional and as a professional, so I don't think, excluding, say, our social workers would be appropriate. So I think we want to make sure that we're able to include all of those staff in any bargaining that we do, should they choose to do so, should they choose to organize.
Yeah, I mean, that's an important distinction. I too, when I was working at one of the universities that I worked at, was a union member. I was really grateful for some of the assistance that I got at one point when my job responsibilities had been adjusted because I was acting, covering for somebody else as well. So this is, I guess you could call this enabling legislation, because there's no resistance on council to allowing employees to do what is best for them. It's just a question of codifying it, and then it's up to the employees to go through the steps. So at this point, I think I'd like to thank Mr. Silvestri and Mr. Taylor for the work that they've done. I'd like to thank the public for the input that we've received tonight. And mostly, I want to thank my colleagues on council for their suggestions and stewarding of this process that we're going through. So if there's no further discussion, council member, please.
I'd like us to put on the books a time in the future in which we can go over the code, because it's going to take its own work session, and I would just like us to schedule that meeting so that we can know it's coming, so that we can all be prepared to discuss it, and that, because we can have once the charter amendments pass, we do need the code in order for that to work. So
Well,
perhaps we could discuss that.
Thinking in terms of the 40 days and the 10 days and whatnot, that's going to put us in March sometime. Is that?
Yeah.
Once I have the council's direction on the charter, and we have the charter draft, I can start working on the code relatively easily, because like I said before, we don't have to recreate the wheel here. We've got a code provision already in the books with respect to the FOP. So I know just from the discussion where the issues might be, and we can anticipate that. I can work with Mr. Salmarone and Mr. Martinez on the wording, make sure we've got consensus and connection with that, and then we'll be ready. It's not going to take a long time for us to do that,
Right.
or a lot of hours.
And the materials from tonight were posted online, so folks that are interested can actually dig deep. They can take a look at the proposed, the redlined code modifications that are out there, and that should be helpful.
I think so, yeah.
Okay? Yeah, please go ahead.
Well, I think just actually looking at a calendar, if it seems like there's going to be anything that we need to vote on, including or excluding, if we don't have, then we would need to do that, because I don't think we can do that on next week's meeting. It would have to be the 9th. And that would, if there's anything that we think we're in disagreement on that we need to have a vote on before framing the charter amendment specifically, and then we have to wait, it's 21 days notice. No, we do first reading and then it's the 21 days notice. I'm trying to remember the order.
Yes, we do 21-day notice for the second reading and adoption of charter amendment.
So in theory, if there was anything we needed to vote about in terms of direction on the charter amendment, that could be the 9th. First reading could be introduced on the 23rd of February, and then 21 days, that puts us at March, when do we have the meeting there? The 9th, I think the 9th is too soon. I think that's not 21 days.
The 9th is too soon.
I think that's not 21 days. So that would look at the soonest we could do a second reading and adoption would be the 23rd of March.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm not sure what timeframe, Councilmember Pompey, you're thinking about in terms of a work session on the code. I mean, if we get the direction on the 9th of February and start developing the charter amendment, that's when I think that Mr. Silvestri can start developing the code.
Certainly could have the code and draft provision for you to consider at a work session, certainly by the end of February.
Okay.
Great.
This is not,
Okay.
like I said, this is not gonna take a long time.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, that would be great. I think especially because we already have, passed the charter amendment for Public Works to organize that, the sooner we can start updating the code, the better.
I mean, to me, even if they had immediate collective bargaining rights, right, we'd be talking about a contract FY 2027, right? Because we, the budget, we've already done that, so it would be next year.
We are presenting our 2027 budget March 23rd.
Right.
I don't,
That's your FY 2027, I'm talking about July 1, 2027.
okay, so it will be your
Your
28th.
FY 2028, I'm sorry.
28th, yes.
Yeah, because by the time you start the first contract negotiation, you're already gonna be into the FY. Into the
Correct.
2027 FY.
Okay. Please go to the microphone, sir.
I was just gonna say, yeah, that's definitely understandable, and I still think it's no reason to hesitate moving forward with the change in the codes. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Okay. Any further comment? Well, we got a couple of information items. So once again, Mr. Vestry, Mr. Taylor, thank you so much for your assistance. And thanks to the members of the public that came out that are following this so closely. And thanks to my colleagues on the council as we steward this process and move forward. There are two information items. Councilmember Pompey, you have an information item?
I do. Residents may be aware that our county council representative Ingrid Turner resigned last week from her position representing us. And I wanted to make sure that folks knew that there was going to be a special virtual meeting to appoint the District 4 council member at 4 p.m. on Friday, January 23rd. It's important that you participate, that you watch the proceedings, that you make testimony should you choose to do so. This person who's being appointed will likely be our council member for the next 4 years. So they're being appointed just shortly before the primary, which, as we all know, is when the county council members are usually decided. So I just want to make sure that folks are aware of that and are ready to participate. And I ask that you participate. It's so important that Greenbelt be represented in that meeting. So.
Do you know of anyone who's put their name forward for
I
Greenbelt?
do know one person, and that person is our own mayor, Emmett Jordan. He has put his name forward for that position. So I think anyone who wanted to attend and support the mayor, I'm sure he would welcome that.
I certainly would, yes.
And again, it's important for Greenbelt to be represented on the county council. And it's been since when have we had a representative from Greenbelt on the county council, Mayor?
Well, Richard Castaldi, I think he left the county council back in 1994, so it's been 30 years.
Yeah, so it would be great for us to.
I was born that year.
That's correct, yeah.
Well, it would be excellent for us to have an opportunity to have someone from Greenbelt on our county council. I think all of us would agree with that. So anyway, please participate. Consider supporting our mayor. I am certainly doing so. That's my information item.
Thank you very much, thank you. And Mr. Somerone, I think you had your hand Please go ahead. But you have an
You're
information
up-
item.
No,
right?
you're up.
I do have an information item. So, we expect a snowstorm to come through, starting midday Saturday into late Sunday. I do not have a firm projection from the National Weather Service, but we know it's going to be significant, and it may lead to a closure on Monday. Council has a regular meeting scheduled for Monday. We've noted it in the paper that there's a potential for the meeting to be rescheduled to Wednesday due to the inclement weather. Because if we close the city, then we would not have staff in the building other than essential personnel that will be handling snow activities overnight. So we'll likely have 3 shifts, at least 3 shifts, working the inclement weather operations.
How will heavy snow affect our operations on Monday beyond the meeting, just in terms of trash or building access and community center being open, things like that?
So the impact is going to be driven by the freezing temperatures that the ice is just not going to clear up. In terms of services, if we close the government, we're likely to push pickups from Monday to Tuesday, and we'll put out the information on those impacts. We do make a serious effort to open our aquatic and fitness center, our youth center, and our community center during inclement weather events. We follow the county's park and recreation guidelines with related to those.
Right.
Those things are contingent about having personnel that can drive in. But we've had very success in opening our recreational facilities when the city is closed due to inclement weather.
And typically, with your rhythm of posting public information, so on Sunday morning, depending on how things go on Saturday, would it be safe to say that if people check their website, the city website, there might be some kind of an update once or twice on Sunday?
So our current policy for the employees, we have a commitment to inform our employees by 5 a.m. on the day of a closure. But with this significant weather, we would know much earlier than 5 a.m. on Monday whether we're closing on Monday. The personnel, whether we're open the recreational facilities, it's a lot more challenging because it's contingent on being able to get employees into the city. And we don't know that into the day off as we're calling the personnel that can come into work. So we make that decision early on Monday. If we open, we're likely to not open at the regular hours. So our aquatic and fitness center opens at 6 a.m. We're likely not to open at 6 a.m. It'll just be a late open. But we will know more once we assess the availability of staff and their ability to get into the city.
Yeah, so for the public, the snow's going to start on Saturday, and then Sunday we'll kind of have a better sense of how things are going. So, for people just to know what to do, you at the window, but certainly, check the city website.
Yeah, check the website.
Sunday, and you probably get a good sense of what's going to happen. Councilman Fritz and Councilman Weaver?
Yeah, well, I was just actually thinking about it, especially because we're having trouble directly broadcasting anyway. Could we just shift to Zoom only for the meeting on Monday and do a recording and an upload to YouTube later? Because, I mean, obviously, if the building's closed, it's closed. This hadn't occurred to me until now, until Councilmember Fritz is coming. But like during all of COVID, we didn't have anybody in the building either, and we still did the meetings. Is that something we want to do instead? Because I think if we move to Wednesday, the problem is we have to reschedule advisory board interviews.
Correct.
But is that something that you talked about with staff today, of just doing it fully remote, just not have an in-person option? We're just all on Zoom, record it. If we can't send it to YouTube or the cable channel.
If we all have power.
Well, yes. If everybody's power goes out, then that's a separate issue.
Then we're gonna go with Plan B. But I was thinking the same. I'm like, we did Zoom meetings before.
We
can-
Somebody has to be here though in order to kind of coordinate that,
Do they,
especially with
though?
our technical challenges.
So I attend the meetings, our clerks attend the meeting. I am on from when that first snow drop. happens. So Saturday, I'll be on Saturday,
No.
Sunday. So
That's a fair point.
that's the challenge I have. If we close the city, anyone that is providing support to the meeting, it's all overtime.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a fair point, yeah.
yeah.
But we did for what, year and a half or year and a half, and all completely virtual meetings.
And we
Sure.
can have that in just regular course of business. Just Monday is not going to be a regular.
Maybe
course.
Monday is
let's
not gonna
not-
be the right day.
Yeah,
to do
let's
it.
not,
Yeah.
let's not roll it out on Monday.
Okay. Okay, and finally, Mr. Hartman, you got a question or something, a comment?
I wanted to compliment our public works folks that clean on the streets and everything, but I would beseech you to please not cover up curb cuts when they're clearing the snow along the streets where curb cuts get covered up. And also in parking lots, very often the parking spaces designated for people with disabilities are where people dump snow. So I would please be mindful and have someone following up the street,
Yeah.
cleaning with the curb cuts and curb
We,
cuts.
we are certainly going to do. I was just talking with Mr. Samaron today about, there's a plan. There's like a map for snow removal, and there are some priority streets, primary, secondary, the sidewalks. There's this whole with a heavy snow, and we don't know if it's going to be heavy or not. They're saying that it probably will, and there'll be some ice. We really don't know. We'll know better on Sunday, but there's a whole plan, and as part of that, the sidewalks are after the streets, but we're very, very aware. Thank you so much for reminding us about not having Public Works not blocking, coming back and blocking the sidewalks. Yeah. Mr. Summerall, can you make a note of that, please?
It's part of our procedures already. The curb cuts, the way the curb cuts get covered is because the roads are being plowed, and oftentimes that's the intersection. It's the curb cuts for the sidewalks. Yes, but we have to first clear the roads, then we come back and take care of the sidewalks. We'll get to the curb cuts once we've gotten to the roads. With the issue of the one parking space, the handicap parking space, I've shared this with council and the public. I don't think that parking space should be handicapped because it's right off the ramp. There's no way to get a vehicle to plow snow off the ramp onto the roadway and clear it. So the way to clear those spots have been that the only way to get a plow through there is off the road, and that means pushing that snow up into the retaining wall. So what the team has done is that they plow, clear the parking spots, push that snow back. Then they have to come back with a backhoe, a skid steer to lift that snow and put it into a container, move it away. So when they're able to do that, we'll get that handicap parking spot cleared, but we can't plow from the rear because there's just no way to get there. So
We should record that and play it back so that people can look and see. The plan that I was, all kidding aside, the plan that I was referencing, that is somewhere on the website, so people can actually look and know what the priority streets, the first priority.
yeah, and
the
that's
main
that,
thoroughfares.
and we have the routes to school sidewalks. What are the primary sidewalks? Yes, all of that it's laid out in our snow treatment plan.
Yeah, maybe we can actually, if we can find that, and I'm sure we can, post it someplace on the website so people can look and see.
I work on James to post that. I think one of it's well known in the city. We have the best public works team when it comes to clearing snow.
We do, definitely.
So we know how to do our jobs. We'll take care of roads. We'll take care of our sidewalks.
Okay. Hey,
Just real quick, I just want to remind you, if you live in a neighborhood, particularly one with single-family homes, if you are able to move your vehicle off the street during the snow, it's great if you can do so because it really does help our public works clear the roads better. So if you have the ability to pull your car into a driveway, I know that they really appreciate it, and it goes a long way to just getting the roads a little bit more clear. So thanks, sorry.
Thank you, Councilmember Papi, and that's an excellent point because the snow when the plows are coming through, the snow gets pushed off to the side, right? So if there's a vehicle parked on the road. There's snow that's going to get pushed behind the vehicle and off to the side of the vehicle. And then when those folks get in their car to clear the vehicles, they put it right back on the road. So if you're able to, you've got a parking spot, just please move it off the road and make everyone's life easier, safer for everyone.
Appreciate that. So at this point, let's bring the work session to a close. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
I mean, we could talk about snow
We
all
could, we
day.
could.
We
I
could
was gonna
have
say,
a
you know,
whole nother work session.
you should
just about snow.
if you're in a single-family homes, you should, shovel your sidewalk, but don't put it back out in the street. No. That was a good save.
Sometimes I don't know if it would be easier to get my car out. I guess I should leave the garage closed.
Yeah,
I mean, it's going to take time for that to get cleared.
yeah, because otherwise
At
there'll
the
be
end of
snow
the
in the garage.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think you want
Then I'm
snow.
stuck. Then I'm
You
stuck.
don't want snow in your garage.